she fired a single dad, then his triplets. Found her crying before her billionaire father. Sometimes the people who seem the strongest are carrying the heaviest silence. Margaret Coldwell had a reputation in the city of Harrington. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Also, tell us in the comments where in the world are you watching from. People called her the Iron Lady of Coldwell Enterprises, a woman who had built her late husband's struggling textile company into a powerhouse worth nearly $400 million. She wore sharp blazers, walked fast, spoke faster, and had zero tolerance for excuses. She fired people the way others swatted flies, quickly and without guilt. Or so everyone believed. On a cold Tuesday morning in November, she called Daniel Harmon into her office and handed him a termination letter without blinking. Daniel was 34 years old, a single father to 8-year-old triplets named Lily, Leo, and Lucas. And he had worked in the accounting department of Coldwell Enterprises for 6 years. He had been late 3 times in the past month. His performance had slipped, and Margaret followed the rules to the letter. She did not ask why. She did not look at the dark, the circles beneath his eyes, or notice that his shirt was slightly wrinkled in a way that suggested he had ironed it in a hurry. She simply told him his last day was Friday and thanked him for his service. Daniel stood up, nodded once, and walked out. He did not cry. He did not beg. He just left quietly, and Margaret told herself she had done the right thing. 2 weeks passed. Life moved on at Coldwell Enterprises the way it always did, cold and efficient and relentless. Then on a Saturday afternoon in early December, Margaret found herself sitting on a wooden bench in Riverside Park, completely alone, her hands shaking and her mascara ruined. She had just come from her father's hospital room. Elliot Coldwell, the billionaire patriarch who had handed her the company, who had pushed her to be harder and stronger and never weak, had been diagnosed with stage 3 pancreatic cancer. The doctor had used words like aggressive and uncertain and prepared, and Margaret had smiled through the entire conversation because she did not know how to stop smiling when the world was breaking around her. She had walked out of the hospital, gotten into a car, driven to the park, sat down, and then fallen apart completely. She was crying the way she had not cried in 15 years, ugly and loud and shaking, pressing her hand against her mouth to muffle the sound. She did not hear the footsteps until they were right beside her. 3 small faces appeared at eye level, 3 pairs of wide, curious eyes staring at her like little owls. Lily, Leo, and Lucas Harmon stood in a row, bundled in mismatched winter coats, their cheeks red from the cold. Leo spoke first. He said, "Lady, are you okay?" Margaret looked up and recognized them. Immediately, because she had seen Daniel's family photo on his desk once before she had cleared it out. She felt a cold wave of shame wash over her, but she was too broken in that moment to pretend she was fine. She shook her head and said, "Not really." Lily sat down beside her without asking. She pulled off her little yellow scarf and placed it gently over Margaret's hands. She said, "When I cry, Daddy says it means your heart is working really hard." Lucas, the quietest of the 3, reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a slightly squashed granola bar and held it out to her like it was the most important thing in the world. Margaret laughed through her tears and took it. She asked them where their father was, and they pointed to a man jogging toward them with panic on his face. Daniel stopped when he saw her. His expression shifted through several emotions at once: recognition, surprise, something complicated. And then he sat down on the bench, on her other side, and said nothing for a long moment. Finally, he said, "I'm sorry about whatever it is." She told him about her father. She did not know why she told him. Maybe because he had lost people too. His wife had passed away 4 years. Was why he had been late those mornings, why his performance had slipped. Because he had been taking his 3 children to grief, counseling sessions that only met before 9 in the morning. She had never known this because she had never asked. She told him she was sorry. She meant it more than she had meant most things in her life. Daniel looked at her for a long time and then said, "People are fighting battles every day that nobody announces. Over the following weeks, Margaret did something she had never done before. She called Daniel and offered him his job back. Not as a gesture of charity, but because she had looked at his record again and realized he was one of the best employees she had ever had. She also introduced a new policy at Coldwell Enterprises, allowing flexible hours for parents and caregivers. She started visiting her father every evening and stopped, pretending to smile when she wanted to cry. Elliot Coldwell, lying in his hospital bed, watched his daughter hold his hand and weep openly, and told her it was the first time in years she had looked truly human. The triplets sent her a handmade card that said, "We hope your daddy gets better," decorated with 3 sets of tiny handprints in green and blue paint. She framed it and hung it in her office where everyone could see it. Because sometimes the strongest lessons come from the smallest hands, and the heaviest silences are broken not by power, but by kindness. If this story touched your heart, please give a like, share it with someone who needs to hear it today, and subscribe to our channel, Kindness True Stories, where every story reminds us that humanity is still alive and well.